The first snow of the new winter fell lightly over King's Landing, frosting the shattered ruins of the Red Keep like a cold crown. Bran the Broken sat alone in the echoing halls of the freshly rebuilt throne room, a hall reborn in silence and stone. The Iron Throne was gone, melted down to nothing but ash and memory. In its place stood a simple carved weirwood seat, pale and cold as the one who now ruled. There were no lords whispering at his side, no hand of the king to carry out his will, no master of coin, no master of whispers, no counsel to guide him. Bran had sent them all away. Tyrion had tried to stay, clinging to duty and guilt, but Bran had seen the thread of his fate too tangled, too corrupted. So he released him. Grey Worm had sailed to Noth. Sansa ruled the north. Arya sailed west. Jon was lost to the snows of the Night's Watch. And Bran? He ruled. Alone. "Your Grace," a knight said quietly at the edge of the throne room, kneeling just beyond the line of polished tile that led to the seat. "Lord Grafton of Goldtown has refused your latest command. He says the North has too much freedom, and he will not kneel to a boy who speaks to trees." Bran didn't turn his head. His pale eyes stared forward into time, into memory, into the heart of Westeros. He didn't need messengers. The ravens told him everything, and they never lied. "Let him speak," Bran said. His voice was low, hollowed by distance. "He'll be dead in 3 days. Poisoned wine. His steward will weep, then swear loyalty. To me," the knight blinked. "Should we send someone to stop it, Your Grace?" Bran closed his eyes, as if watching the scene unfold already. "No, let it happen. The realm balances itself." The knight hesitated, then bowed. "Yes, Your Grace." As the man's footsteps vanished into the distance, Bran was alone again. Just him and the weirwood chair and the ancient silence of the halls. The world outside buzzed and bled, peasants rebelled, lords schemed, old houses clutched for more power in the vacuum, left behind by dragons and mad queens. And Bran watched it all. Every whisper in every corner of the 7 kingdoms passed through his birds. Every lie tasted stale on his tongue before it was even spoken. He didn't eat much anymore. He didn't sleep. He barely breathed. There were whispers in the streets that he wasn't even human, that the throne had become a prison of root and bark, that Bran Stark, once a broken boy in the snow, had become something older and darker. Some said he was the old gods walking in flesh. Others said he was the last green seer, lost in visions and ghosts of the past. But no one said it loud. No one dared. In Flea Bottom, they called him the Silent King. In Dorne, they called him the Warg Tyrant. In the Vale, they prayed that he was just mad, not something worse. Bran didn't care. He saw too much to care. He remembered being dragged through the snow by Hodor. He remembered the cave beneath the tree, the roots that wrapped around his legs like veins, the old man who died to make him what he was. He remembered the Night King. He remembered fire and blood. He remembered what power looked like when it bloomed from fear. So he ruled without mercy and without love. Edric Tully, a young heir from Riverrun, came to the capital to ask for his lands back. He left with a broken arm and a warning: "Defy me again, and your house ends." A delegation from the Iron Islands sailed in with gold and promises. There, ships were sunk before they reached Blackwater Bay. Bran had seen the betrayal in their captain's heart. 2 days before the ships even left Pike, they started to fear him more than they had feared Cersei. And that fear, it worked. The realm was quiet, controlled, efficient, unnatural. But in the shadows, a resistance stirred. Small at first, just whispers from Storm's End, where Gendry Baratheon gritted his teeth and remembered the taste of rebellion. just smuggled messages to Sansa Stark in the north, who refused to bow but hadn't yet challenged her brother. And deep in Old Town, in the shadowed vaults of the Citadel, a secret alliance of Mesters prepared to challenge what they now called the unnatural rule. But Bran already knew. He had seen it all. Now the question was, would he stop it? Or had he already seen something worse? The cold wind swept in from the narrow sea, rattling the broken shutters of abandoned homes in King's Landing. The city, once bursting with chaos and voices, now spoke in hushed tones. Merchants did not shout. Children did not play. The bells hadn't rung in a year. Fear had replaced the flame of life. Bran Stark sat still in the dark hours of the night. No candles lit the room. He needed none. His eyes were open, but he was not truly there. His mind drifted far through sky and snow, across towers and valleys, through eyes not his own. He was watching Gendry Baratheon. The blacksmith lord knelt at the edge of Storm's End's war room, staring at a cracked old map. His face was hard, jaw clenched. Around him stood a handful of bannermen, young lords, restless knights, even a few rogue mesters. One of them leaned close and whispered, "If we wait any longer, he'll see us. The birds, they say he's always watching." Gendry slammed his fist down. Let him watch. He can't fight a war from a chair. The others went quiet. From his chamber hundreds of miles away, Bran heard every word, and he smiled. Across the sea of stars in his mind, he drifted next to the north. Winterfell stood like a silent sentinel beneath the moonlight. Sansa walked alone in the Godswood, her red hair burning like fire against the snow. She knelt before the heart tree and whispered prayers, but Bran didn't hear her voice. He heard her heart, steady, careful, ready. She had not declared war. Not yet, but she had also not answered his summons in months. Not since he executed the raven she'd sent, a northern bannerman pleading for independence. Bran had sent the man's head back in a wooden box carved from weirwood. The realm was breaking slowly, and Bran led it. Not because he was cruel, but because he had seen what came after. The Citadel's secret circle of Mesters hidden, beneath layers of oaths and shadows, had begun to write dangerous words again. They debated openly now. Was Bran still Bran? Or something worse? They feared his visions, his mind, his unnatural connection to the weirwoods. They feared a king who ruled not with advisers, but with ancient power. So they planned. In their chambers, they whispered of dragons. Not the beasts that Daenerys once rode. Those were ash butt of secrets. Of hidden vaults, old magic, cursed spells, and forgotten bloodlines. One of them even dared speak the name, Euron Greyjoy. Another madman lost to the sea, perhaps. But madness had a strange way of returning. Meanwhile, in the Riverlands, Edmure Tully was raising taxes without permission. In the Westerlands, House Lannister had vanished into silence, their gold dried up and their pride swallowed. Rumors said Tyrion was hiding their plotting, or drinking, or both. Bran saw it all, but still he did not act. Instead, he sat in the throne room that no longer echoed with counsel, and he whispered only once to himself, "Let them move their pieces." Sir Podrick Payne was one of the few who still walked the halls beside him. A loyal knight, perhaps too simple to fear the things others did. He brought food, he brought reports. He kept his sword sharp, though it had never been drawn in Bran's presence. One evening, Podrick entered the throne room with urgency. "Your Grace, the black cells are empty. Someone has freed the prisoners from the dungeons below." Bran blinked slowly. "How many?" "All 37. Murderers, spies, even the last of Cersei's loyalists." Bran paused. "They'll be caught." Podrick hesitated. "But this wasn't done with coin. It was planned, quiet, swift, like someone knew our every pattern. It wasn't desperation. It was strategy. Bran closed his eyes. He saw it, a girl in shadows, quick as a blade, no name, no allegiance. His sister. Arya Stark had returned, not to be seen, not to be greeted, but for something darker. Bran whispered, "The realm stirs." Podrick leaned forward. "Your grace?" But Bran said no more. The vision had shown him something else now, something beyond the war, beyond the rebellion, a child not yet born, a throne not made of metal or wood, a future where Bran the Broken would not be king, would not even be human. He shivered for the first time in years, because that child was not his blood. And yet it would end everything he had built. And it was already coming. The snows thickened in the north, while the shadows deepened in the south. Across Westeros, time bent strangely under Bran's reign, as if the land itself hesitated, waiting for something terrible to begin. The prison break shook the capital. Sir Podrick, no longer the bumbling squire he once was, ordered the city gates locked and patrols doubled. But it was too late. The escapees had scattered like seeds in the wind. Some headed toward the Stormlands. Some vanished into the alleys of King's Landing. And a few only, the cleverest, were bound for Old Town. That part Bran had expected. What he hadn't expected was Arya. She moved like fog through his visions, one moment near the docks, the next near the crypts beneath the city. She hadn't spoken to him, hadn't announced herself, or left even a whisper. But she was here, not to see her brother. She had a target, and Bran, for all his power, couldn't see who it was. He found her once briefly in the dream of a raven perched atop the ruined sept of Baelor. She stood still, cloaked in black, gazing up at the weirwood tower of the Red Keep. Her face was unreadable. Her heart beat slow but sure. Arya Stark had returned not as a sister, but as a blade in the dark. And even Bran didn't know who she was going to strike. He should have stopped her. He could have sent guards, locked the streets, hunted her, down with birds and men. But he didn't, because deep down, something inside Bran whispered that Arya's hand would decide the fate of the realm, not his. And he was too far gone in the rivers of time to change the current now. In the Far East, near the last fading shores of Essos, a ship docked under a black sail. It bore no banner. Its crew wore masks. Its captain, once a king, had returned from drowning. Euron Greyjoy, mad and mangled, stepped once more onto land. Thought dead, lost in the storm Daenerys brought, he now wore chains of black coral, and spoke only in riddles. The mesters of Old Town welcomed him in secret. Desperate men do desperate things. And they needed a weapon. Bran was no longer just a king. He was an idea, a threat to the natural order. They couldn't control him, and so they turned to a monster. In Winterfell, Sansa sat before her council, her voice like the bite of winter. "He is no longer our brother," she said, calm but absolute. "He sees everything, yet he speaks to no one. He rules with visions, not with honor. The North will not bow to a ghost." Maester Corlin, newly raised, cleared his throat. "Your Grace, with all respect, if we defy him openly, we risk another war." Sansa stood. "So be it. Better war than silence under a throne made of roots." Her words spread like fire across the north, and then to the Riverlands, and then to the Stormlands, where Gendry had already begun gathering steel. 3 regions of Westeros had now begun preparing for rebellion. Bran knew it. And yet he sat still. "Why don't you act?" Podrick asked one night, breaking the silence he rarely dared disturb. Bran, half lost in trance, turned slowly toward him. His pale eyes shimmered like ice. "Because they think they can win," Bran whispered. "But I've seen what comes after they try." Do they die? Podrick asked, his voice tight. Bran didn't blink. They'll wish they had. The earth trembled beneath King's Landing days later, not from siege engines or dragon fire, but from something ancient and long buried. A section of the catacombs collapsed, revealing a chamber none remembered. Within it, a relic wrapped in dragon bone and shadow. A horn, one that had not sounded in 1,000 years. Bran felt its presence immediately. So did Arya. And so did Euron. They were all being pulled to the same end, drawn like threads into the teeth of fate. The realm was breaking. Not because of war, but because Bran wasn't the only power left. And something else, older than men, older than kings, had begun to stir beneath the world. It waited for the horn to sound. It waited for a Stark to bleed. And it would not wait much longer. The wind carried whispers now. Not just rumors of rebellion or murder, but something old or wrong, as if the land itself groaned under an unseen. Wait. The people of King's Landing woke with nightmares they could not explain. Ravens flew in erratic patterns, smashing into windows and collapsing mid-air. Wolves howled in the Crownlands. And deep beneath the Red Keep, the horn had been unearthed. It was made of blackened bone, etched in swirling symbols too ancient for any Mester to decipher. The air around it shimmered. One of the guards who touched it fell to the ground, blood leaking from his ears. Another screamed for 2 days before clawing out his own eyes. Bran had not ordered it brought to him. He didn't need to. He could already hear it. Late into the night, he sat alone in the throne room, the weirwood seat pale and stark beneath him. The chamber flickered with candlelight, but he did not see it. His mind roamed the growing storm. Sansa had declared independence. The raven she sent was not a plea or warning. It was a simple note of severance. The North is done kneeling. Gendry's forces had taken Tumbleton. His blacksmiths were forging arms day and night, and he'd sent envoys to Dorne. He'd refused. Titles, claiming no desire for crowns, only justice, for a realm ruled by whispers and ghosts. In Old Town, Euron stood before the Mesters like a prophet. The years had changed him. His eye patch was gone. His face was marked with carvings, some still raw. He spoke in tongues and offered them the horn as tribute. A tool, he claimed, too. Wake, the thing that sleeps below the roots of the world. Most laughed. One did not. Archmaester Regan, old and bitter, believed, and that night he took the horn into the vaults. Bran saw it all. But what chilled him was not the horn, nor the armies gathering. It was Arya. She was close now, closer than ever. She had been living beneath the city, among the beggars, under different faces. Bran tried to follow her, but even his ravens lost her scent. She was unlike anything else in the realm. One night, she stood at the gates of the Dragon Pit ruins, staring out at the burned bones of Balerion and Vhagar. She whispered only once, but Bran heard her from miles away. "You've forgotten what you are, Bran." And then she was gone again. Podrick entered the chamber, his face pale. "Your Grace, riders from the North and Stormlands have been spotted. 2 separate camps, gathering near Harrenhal." Bran didn't react. "They're not hiding anymore." Podrick continued. "They mean to take the throne." Bran turned his head slowly. "Then let them come. Let them all come." "But, Your Grace, forgive me, the people. They don't need saving," Bran interrupted. His voice, soft and cold, silenced the room. "They need reminding." That night, Bran entered the deepest trance he'd ever attempted. His eyes rolled back, and the throne room went dark. The torches snuffed themselves out. The very stones of the keep seemed to hum with old magic, and Bran fell deep into the roots of time. He went farther than the ravens, farther than the trees. He went to the place where the first faces were carved. where the children of the forest spilled blood to bind the magic that men never fully understood. He passed the place where the Night King was born, where the wall was dreamed before it was built. And there, beneath it all, he saw the slumbering thing. It had no name, no face. It pulsed with raw magic, like a heart made of ice and flame and void. It had waited for millennia beneath the roots of the world untouched. Its awakening would not bring death. It would bring unmaking. Bran tried to speak to it, and it opened its eye. Bran screamed. In the throne room, his body convulsed. Blood trickled from his nose. Podrick rushed to him, shouting for the Mesters. But none could move the king. His eyes stayed blank. His lips moved soundlessly. He was trapped. And in the vaults of Old Town, the horn sounded. It was not blown. It screamed itself into the world. Windows shattered. Birds fell from the sky. People hundreds of miles away clutched their heads and wept. And far to the north, just beyond the shattered wall, something moved in the dark. Not ice, not death, something older. Arya felt it too. She looked to the east and whispered, "Now I know who I have to kill." But she didn't mean Bran. She meant the thing Bran woke. And time was running out. The storm broke over Harrenhal first. Not of rain or wind, but steel, fire, and shattered alliances. The Stormlands and the North had joined forces, at least in name. Their banners flew side by side, the direwolf and the crowned stag. But old blood and older grudges still lingered beneath every salute and every toast. Gendry Baratheon stood tall at the gates of Harrenhal, wearing blacksmith's armor instead of a nobleman's cloak. Beside him, Lady Sansa Stark rode with cold eyes and colder silence. They didn't trust each other, but they both knew what Bran had become. "He's not Bran anymore," Sansa said bluntly, as the War Council gathered in the ruined Great Hall. "He doesn't dream. He doesn't speak unless he sees it in the trees. He rules like a god who no longer remembers how to be human." "He's too powerful," Gendry replied, "and too still. I'd rather fight a mad king than a ghost." They both turned as a rider approached from the east, her horse black as coal, her hood deep. She didn't speak as she dismounted. She simply unwrapped her scarf. Arya. She had come without invitation, and when she entered the hall, they fell silent. "I don't care about your alliance," she said flatly, "or your banners. I'm not here to fight your war." Gendry looked at her, unreadable. "Then why come?" She stared at Sansa. "Because he's broken something deeper than the crown. Something old." Sansa nodded slowly. "The horn." Arya's eyes flickered. It wasn't just a horn. They listened as she explained what she had seen, what she had felt. The moment it sounded, the trees themselves had cried out. Shadows moved in corners that had no light. And she saw something in the distance, in her dreams. Not the Night King, worse, it didn't want to rule. It wanted to erase. All thrones, all men, all time. Gendry clenched his jaw. "You're saying Bran's unleashed it?" "I'm saying he isn't in control of it anymore," Arya replied. "And if we wait, the throne won't matter, because nothing will be left." At that same hour, far away in King's Landing, Bran's body lay still. The Mesters circled him, panicked and confused. His breath was shallow. His eyes had turned cloudy, near-white. The birds had stopped singing. The trees in the royal gardens had gone black at the tips of their branches. And in the sky over Blackwater Bay, ravens swirled in unnatural formations, spelling symbols no human tongue could read. Sir Podrick knelt beside him. "Your Grace, please wake up. The realm's coming apart." But Bran was not there. He had gone too deep. He walked now through the endless caverns beneath the world, his spirit naked and trembling. The thing. He had touched Woken noticed him now. It whispered in a voice like grinding stone and crying children. It didn't speak with words. It used memory, emotion, nightmares. It showed him things. A Westeros where nothing had ever lived. A realm where time rewound itself endlessly, trapping souls in eternal cycles. A throne of bone, untouched by men. And Bran, sitting atop it, alone, ageless, dead. No, Bran whispered in the dark. That's not the future. That's not what I saw. But the thing showed him more. It had no name, no shape. It was every mistake made by magic. Every curse carved by blood. The children of the forest had not created it. They had tried to trap it, long before the first men, long before names. The horn had cracked its prison, and Bran had held the key all along. He tried to pull back, to return to the surface, but he felt it pulling at him like roots curling around a stone, dragging him into the soil of time itself. Meanwhile, in the Vale, Lord Robin Arryn, grown strange and pale, had seen visions of his own. He wrote letters to Sansa and Gendry. "Do not march on King's Landing," one read. "You'll only walk into your own dreams. And dreams cannot die." They ignored him. The march began. 50,000 soldiers. Northmen, Stormlanders, a few disillusioned Reachmen and broken remnants of old houses. They moved slowly, carefully, toward the capital. Sansa rode at the front. Arya disappeared again. Gendry led the middle column. And beneath their feet, something stirred. In Old Town, the Mesters realized too late that the horn was still glowing, even unblown. Euron had vanished. The black cells beneath the citadel cracked open. And in the night sky, stars shifted into unfamiliar patterns. Sansa had told the truth. This war wasn't about the throne. It was about reality itself cracking open. And somewhere inside the Weirwood network, trapped beneath the world, Bran screamed. But no one could hear him anymore. The dust of war clouded. The horizon as the armies of the North and Stormlands reached the outskirts of King's Landing. Smoke curled from the chimneys, but no bells rang. No horns blew. The city looked abandoned. But it wasn't. Scouts returned with empty eyes. Some raved of shadows with no form. Others never returned at all. And those who did spoke of whispers. In the walls, faces and windows that vanished, and trees that seemed to move ever so slightly when you turned your back. Sansa stood before the remnants of the outer wall, her face unreadable. Gendry approached her, helmet under his arm, sweat and ash on his brow. "Where are the people?" he asked. Sansa shook her head. "Gone underground or mad." Behind them, the banners fluttered, but no one sang. No songs. No chants. Just a hush heavy as mourning. The soldiers felt it, too. Something was wrong. Arya was already inside. She hadn't waited for armies. She'd taken a forgotten tunnel beneath. The ruins of the Sept. Her steps were light. Her face was not her own. She'd borrowed the skin of a dead septa she found years ago. Even death was a disguise to her now. The closer she came to the Red Keep, the colder the air felt. Not cold like winter, but cold like emptiness. Like something had drained the very soul of the stones. Bran sat still in the throne room, but he wasn't Bran anymore. The Weirwood throne had grown. Pale roots slithered down the marble steps. Bark split the stone. Branches curled into arches that hadn't been carved by human hands. His legs were wrapped in them now, fused to the living wood. His eyes were white. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. His skin was dry and cracking like old parchment. But he was alive in a way. Podrick had fled weeks ago. The Mesters were dead. The royal guard had vanished. And yet he still sat, the king of nothing, the eye of a storm no man could see. And deep within the ground, The horn pulsed. The thing Bran had awoken had entered him. Not fully, not yet. But it had begun feeding on his body, his mind, his sight, using the weirwood network as a vein system, pumping itself into Westeros, and Arya saw it. She stepped into the throne room like a ghost. Her blade was in her hand, quiet as breath. Bran didn't move. He couldn't. His voice spoke in her mind, not from his lips, but through the trees. "You're too late." Arya's grip tightened. "I'm not here to save you, Bran," she whispered. "I'm here to end you." But Bran's face didn't show fear. It showed sorrow. "It's already inside the roots, the trees. The old gods you prayed to, they're screaming, Arya. You just don't know it yet." She took a step closer. "If you kill me now," he continued, "you sever the one thread holding it in place. It will spread, like wildfire through bark. It will live in everything green, every grove, every leaf. It won't need me," Arya faltered. "Just for a second." And Bran, what remained of him, seized the moment. He lifted a hand. It wasn't flesh. It was bark. But it moved, and the roots in the walls shuddered. Outside, the ground split. Soldiers fell screaming into crevices that hissed with black smoke. The sky rippled like a curtain torn by wind. Crows burst into flame mid-flight. And somewhere, far below the Red Keep, the horn shattered not with sound, but with silence. A vacuum. A pulling, and reality began to bend. Gendry saw the walls of the keep ripple like water. He dropped to one knee, clutching his ears, as something pushed into his skull like a dull blade. Sansa fell from her horse. Her breath fogged. Her heartbeat slowed, and Bran spoke through every tree in Westeros. "Time is not a line. It is a route, and I am its end." Arya screamed and lunged, blade flashing. But just before it struck, the throne room vanished. Everything did. A blinding white explosion of memory. Bark, screams, and light. Then silence. No war, no city, no sound, just snow. Arya stood alone in a field where King's Landing had once been. There was no Bran, no keep, no throne. Only a single leafless tree in the center of a crater, its bark as white as death. And at its roots, the broken hilt of her dagger. Snow fell gently over the ruins of what once was King's Landing. But now, it wasn't even ruins. It was absence. A hole in the world, a space where reality had folded inward, swallowing stone, history, and kings alike. Only the crater remained. And in the middle of it stood a single tree, pale and leafless, with roots tangled in stone and ash. At its base lay Arya's broken dagger. She knelt before it, her hand trembling not from fear, but from something worse than certainty. She had killed him. She was sure of it. Bran was gone. She had watched the blade disappear into his chest, had felt the echo of time ripping in her mind, had heard his last breath, if it could even be called that. But if he was gone, why wasn't it over? Behind her, the wind whispered her name not in Bran's voice, not even in words. It came as memory, as sensation. The sound of leaves rustling in Winterfell's godswood, the feel of snowflakes on her cheeks as a child, the distant echo of Jon's voice. It was like the world was trying to remind her who she was, and yet it wasn't the same world anymore. Sansa awoke hours later, her body buried under frost and rubble. Her ears rang. Her guards were gone. Gendry's camp had been scattered like straw in a storm. Fires burned with blue flame. Some men wandered the field blind and laughing. Others wept blood and spoke in riddles. The laws of nature had been rewritten, and the realm knew it. In the north, the weirwood trees began to rot from the inside. Their red leaves curled and blackened. The faces carved in their trunks twisted into silent screams. The nightfort collapsed entirely. No battle, no storm, just dust and silence. In Dorne, the deserts boiled. Not with heat, but with visions. Nomads walked in circles, driven mad by dreams they couldn't explain. Sand turned to glass underfoot. In Old Town, the citadel burned. The Horn, thought destroyed, had cracked the foundations of reality. Euron's body was found on the step's mouth. Open, eyes hollow, symbols carved into his chest by some unseen hand. His final words, scrawled in blood on the stone beside him. He isn't dead, he's become. Mesters fled. The faith broke apart. Even the dragons of old long dead, long buried, seemed to breathe again in the nightmares of children. And still, the tree in the crater stood. Arya sat beneath it now, days passing without sleep. Her mind was fraying. She had killed kings. She had faced death itself. But this was something different. She could feel him in the roots. Not Bran, not exactly. Something that remembered being Bran. A thread of consciousness caught in the roots of the world. It didn't think. It reflected. It pulsed with images past, present, future, all leading into each other. One moment she saw her father's beheading. The next, she was stabbing the Night King again, and Jon ... whispering goodbye in the snow. And then darkness, always returning to the dark. Sansa came to her on the 6th day. No guards, no crown. Just her. You didn't stop it, she said quietly. Arya didn't look at her. I thought I did. Then what is this? Arya nodded toward the tree. This is what's left when gods die screaming. They stood in silence together. For the first time in years, just sisters. No thrones between them. No wars. Just the dead sky and the frost-covered tree. We can't go back, Arya whispered. Bran saw too far. He reached something no. One was meant to touch. And now it's in the roots, Sansa replied. In everything. They both stared at the horizon. A new kind of storm was coming, not of weather, of memory, of time collapsing inward. Bran had opened the gate. And though Arya had closed it, the world had already taken in too much. They had stopped the man, but not the infection. Not the idea. Because Bran hadn't just ruled alone. He had become the realm itself. And now, even death couldn't erase him. Not fully. Not forever. But Arya had one last name. Not Bran. Not a person. Not even a god. But a word that came to her in sleep. A place beyond the map. The root. And she knew? She had to find it. Because deep in the heart of the world, the true end still waited. The wind across the Dothraki Sea was quieter than Arya remembered. She stood on the deck of a small ship, no name on the sails, no flag flying high. The seas had become strange. After the fall of King's Landing, time moved differently now. Some days stretched into weeks. Others passed in the blink of an eye. Stars above twisted into unfamiliar constellations, and sailors whispered prayers to gods no longer answering. But Arya pressed forward, beyond the edge of every known map. She was chasing a dream now, not a destination. The root, a word that had haunted her since the day she killed Bran. It came to her in visions, carved into trees that no longer grew, whispered by children who hadn't been born yet, drawn in ash on the walls of ruined temples in Essos. Everyone, she asked, looked away. Some cried. A few bled from the nose and passed out. One blind priest in Karth told her it was the mouth where time began. Another called it the wound beneath the world. Whatever it was, she could feel it pulling. The ship finally docked on a barren shore of black stone. No birds, no sun, just endless night. Her crew refused to disembark, begging her to turn back. Arya stepped onto the shore alone and began her descent. The path revealed itself without. Torchlight, glowing veins in the stone pulsed like blood, guiding her feet through caverns that stretched miles deep. She walked for days without sleep, her body light, her hunger gone. Every so often, she heard Bran's voice, not as she remembered it, but as a child, then as a king, then as something else entirely. You shouldn't be here. She didn't answer. You think you're saving the world, but there is no world left to save. She kept moving. The cave narrowed into a tunnel, then opened again into a hollow vast enough to swallow castles. In its center was a tree, the likes of which had never grown in Westeros or beyond. Taller than any tower, wider than the Red Keep. It was made of bark, yes, but also bone. Its leaves glowed silver. Its roots pulsed, reaching out across the stone like veins in a dying body. And beneath it, a doorway, no frame, no lock. Just a circle carved into the root-riddled ground. Arya stepped toward it, her blade drawn. But when she looked down, she saw no reflection, no shadow, just endless darkness below. And then it spoke, not a voice, not a thought, an overwhelming presence. You brought death to time, and now you seek to bury it. She gritted her teeth. I seek to end what Bran began. Bran did not begin it. He simply saw it, chose not to look away. Arya stepped forward. Then let me look. The tree shuddered. Leaves fell. The roots trembled, and the doorway opened. It wasn't a door. Not in the normal sense. It was a tear in space, in memory, in meaning. Arya stepped through and fell. She didn't fall far. Just far enough to leave the world behind. Suddenly, she stood in Winterfell. But it wasn't Winterfell. It was every version of it. The one she'd grown up in. The one she burned in dreams. The one where Ned Stark still lived. The one where Jon ruled. The one where Sansa died. Every version of time folded over itself, echoing through her body. And in the center of them all, Bran stood, not broken, not cold, just a boy again. You came so far, he said gently. Arya stepped closer. Is this what's left of you? He smiled. This is all that ever was. Behind him, the tree stretched into forever. Its branches reached into every memory, every moment, every heartbeat that ever lived in Westeros. And its roots were wrapped around everything. This isn't a tree, Arya said. Bran nodded. It's the memory of the world. The weirwoods were just shadows of it. She raised her blade. Bran didn't flinch. You kill me here, Arya? You don't just kill Bran. You kill all of it. She hesitated. If you walk away, he whispered, the roots will finish spreading. There will be no past, no future. Just now, forever. Arya closed her eyes, and for once saw nothing. No death, no war, no vengeance. Just her family, laughing, together, before it all. She opened her eyes and whispered, good. Then she struck, not at Bran, but at the tree. The blade burned white as it sank into the roots. A scream louder than sound shattered the vision. Time collapsed like broken glass. Every memory caught in the tree's grasp tore free, flying into the void like fireflies into darkness. Bran vanished. So did Winterfell. So did Arya. And the world reset. Years later, in a small village near a quiet river, a girl with gray eyes and no name sat beneath a tree with no face. She told stories to children, of kings and dragons, of wolves and wars, of a throne that once ruled the world. None of them believed her, and she smiled, because that meant it had worked. The root was gone, and with it, everything that should never have been.